go. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inspiring Connections, episode 15. Made it to 15. Must be a good sign. Now, we're back here after a little bit of a break. Been traveling,
because we've been traveling and attending conferences.
But I think the wait's going to be worth it as we have Sean Gardner, who is Tomorrow Night on Twitter. I think many of you know him by that handle. He's also a prolific contributor to the Huffington Post and also Forbes, among other publications. And today we're going to talk to him about
how content creation can build your social media and online presence.
Yeah, I think Sean's a great spokesman for that. Two of the things that came up during our conversation was the power of persistence, and you'll hear him talk about that. You know, how people maybe give up a little too quickly when they're, getting involved in social media and also blogging, and also the power of relationships. I think he is a real leader and a real example of that, and we'll talk a little bit about that during our conversation.
And he's going to be sharing a lot of great tips.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, let's get right into it with Sean Gardner. Sean, how you doing? Welcome to PodGym TV Live.
It is an absolute pleasure. You two are, literally two of my favorite people. I will tell everybody out there, I told a friend earlier, I said, there's Angelina Jolie and there's Brad Pitt. You like them separately, but you love them together. And I think that's clearly the best way of describing you guys.
Excellent. Wow. And we feel the very same about you, Sean. It was a pleasure to meet you. I know for the first time in Seattle back 2 years ago. And I know Misty, we both went to a tweet up in Washington, D.C. Just a couple months ago. And we had a great time. So let's get right into it. And first, you're a terrific and very prolific content creator. I think people that know you know this. And for folks who want to get started, how did you start on your journey as a writer and a blogger?
Wow. Well, I've always been a writer, probably since my days in high school, maybe even in junior high. And I'll just tell you guys a real brief story. When I was in junior high school, back then it was called junior high school. I think these days it's called middle school. So I'm kind of dating myself here. But and that was way back in the 80s. It was called junior high school. But back then, I was not really a big writer. I didn't like to read. The only thing I liked to read was the sports paper. And but there was, of course, a young lady who I really liked. And, of course, I think most guys can probably agree with this. Maybe 95% of what we do at some point in our lives is it's to basically impress women or some woman that we're absolutely, trying to get the attention of. So she was a big time reader, a huge reader. She read all the classics, even in like middle school. So you sometimes go, come across the classics in high school. So that was sort of like my beginning. So my mom said, look, you really have to hone your skills. Please, continue to do this. So all throughout high school, all throughout college, I started to read and not started to read really, but just read more. Writing, I wrote for the school newspaper. And, but basically, I think the last decade, maybe the early part of the last decade is when I really got very serious about writing. Like, perhaps this could be something that, I could make money off of. I could really start to connect with really great people, so I just was trying my best to do that. About 2009, I made a bet. I said, look, you know what? I need to start a blog. Now, my mom is the inspiration for me becoming a writer. My mother's the best writer I've ever seen.
Oh, that's great.
Right, but Miss Ariana Huffington is perhaps the inspiration for getting an actual blog.
Okay.
And I say that because I had this plan. I had a 3-year plan. I would start Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn in 2009, which I did. And I said, it'll take me 3 years to build up some capital in social media, and then next thing I know, Ariana Huffington was like, "Oh my God, Sean, you are rocking it!"
That's good. So she found you.
No. Here's what happened.
Okay.
That was just like my fantasy, my dream. come across me and don't say, listen, Sean, I love what you're doing, but I started, tweeting and posting posting a great deal on my blog. I was actually writing, I think, probably maybe 15 to 20 posts a month on my blog back then. Really trying to get their attention, HuffPost. Hashtagging HuffPost, retweeting a lot. So that's how I did it. And as it turns out, Ariana Huffington started following me 3 months. I remember Ariana Huffington back when she had 300 followers.
Wow.
300. Yes, exactly. She started following me. I'm like, why is this woman following me? But okay, this is great. And I didn't know it was her. I thought it may have been like an imposter. So, but I started writing, started really profiling people. And then one thing led to another. This person said, hey, and I'll tell you who it is. And her name is Olivia Zaleski. She was the first ever green editor of HuffPost. And she said, your work should be in Huffington Post. I was like, I agree with you, because I actually wrote to Huffington Post and actually emailed them multiple times each week.
Okay.
Almost to the point where I nagged them, and I know the guy one day he said, is this Sean?
Wow, first name basis.
That was back when they answered, they don't answer the phone anymore because, obviously HuffPost is not just simply a great startup, it's a phenomenon. So, nobody answers the phone anymore, but she, I guess, talked to some people, and then some other people talked to some people, and they saw my blog, and they gave me an opportunity, gave me a chance. So I guess my 3-year plan got cut short, and 6 months or 7 months into 2009, they let me in as a blogger. And, my writing has just kind of evolved since then. So that's sort of the beginning of being a blogger. Mm-hmm. And, in social media. And it's just been fun. That was just I had a 3-year plan. And then all of a sudden, summer of 2009, they said, hey, come on in. So.
That's excellent. It says a lot about persistence and having a plan. I mean, you had a plan, so you went for it, and didn't stop and kept hashtagging them and copying them. And there's a lot to be said for that. I think we find sometimes, newer bloggers or content creators, they give up too quickly. Mm-hmm. They really don't go for it. And it takes a while. And, good for you. I mean, you through persistence, you got in there. So, now you're a Huffington Post writer, and you're quite well known. You got, we'll get into the Twitter powerhouse stories. I definitely want to ask you about that. Mm-hmm. But as far as motivation for writing articles, what's your primary motivation for writing articles? And for those who are trying to get into it, do you have some tips? What are 3 tips that you can give people that are just starting out?
Sure. Well, 3 things work for me. One is you have to write even when you don't want to. That is just, and I'm sure as writers, you guys totally understand this. There could come a point where you'll come across like this writer's block, and it could last for 2 days, it could last for 2 weeks, but you have to keep writing because you never know what will come. Again, it could be a sentence, it could be a word, whatever it may be. You have to keep writing. Don't allow a stumbling block to prevent you from just kind of like squashing your creativity. The second thing is you have to have a sense of humor. It gets very frustrating sometimes when you're trying to put together a sentence, or maybe you just like, oh my God, I want this post to go a certain way, and maybe it's not going a certain way. You have to have a sense of humor because you'll get absolutely frustrated. The third part, which I think is most important, is don't be afraid to bring someone on and actually collaborate. And you guys do such a great job collaborating with, this show and even a lot of your writing. I mean, obviously you guys do some great work individually, but it's really the best work I think you guys do when you guys come together. You're putting, your creativity and your ideas together, and you're just creating good stuff. So I think those are the 3 things. You have to keep writing when you don't want to. Definitely have a sense of humor, because things will get better. Trust me, it doesn't stay dark forever. It's really serious to people. And then the other thing is don't be afraid to collaborate. I think some of the best work that I've done has come when I've been able to collaborate with other people on the HuffPost platform, on any platform. I remember when I first started writing for HuffPost, I didn't really see a lot of collaboration on that platform.
Yeah, we didn't either. Yeah, with a lot of single authors and things.
Right, but now there is one day when you can't click through on any section after section and you see 2 people, 3 people, and in some cases even 4 people collaborating on something. So that tells you something about how important people now see collaboration in the social space and just in general with regard to blogs.
Absolutely.
It's very, very important.
Yeah.
Especially when you experience writer's block. I really believe that's a very good tip. Because a lot of people, they kind of give up right away.
Yeah, they way too quickly. It's like that first little roadblock, and it's like they're already giving up, so I can't do it.
And the tip on collaboration is perfect because I see the younger generation, they could benefit from that collaboration and not think of the other writer as a competitor. Because we're in it together.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think sometimes, I'm going to give you we'll get to this in a second, but I've worked with writers. I've worked with food bloggers on stuff on the HuffPost platform. I've worked with, health and fitness writers on the HuffPost platform. So I think a lot of times, don't just simply stay within your particular area. I know a lot of times people are told that, like, no. You're like in marketing and PR. And so you shouldn't be crossing the streams like that, Sean.
There you go. I love that, crossing the streams.
No, you should be doing that because you never know what type of article, what type of creativity is going to come about when you collaborate. But then on top of that, as you compete sort of with people in your field, it's okay to have, somebody outside of that supporting you. So if you are, sort of stuck in some, and again, this is just kind of good tip here. But if you're a blogger and you're sort of stuck in some particular way, imagine you sort of like connecting with people outside of your area, your field, what you're sort of like, what you specialize in, and now you got that extra support. People that can retweet you and recommend you. So it has a lot of many benefits that go well beyond just simply tweet.
Yeah, and just to dovetail on what you and Misty were talking about collaboration, the other benefit is you're strengthening and creating relationships, which I think, as you know, and most people that we know have been successful content creators or in social media, it's all about the relationship. It's all about collaboration, building those teams, because it's very hard to do it alone. You're really, most successful people, they have a team around them. They usually have people that complement their skills. Right. So if you like Missy said, if you don't think of it as competition, think of it as power in numbers, and complementary skills, right?
Yeah, no, and even Porter Gale was saying this in her book. Great businesswoman Porter Gale, former VP of Virgin America, and one of the things that she was talking about in her very first HuffPost piece, she was saying that that person next to you in the store, that person next to you at that tweet up, that social media event, could be the one to just change your life, to completely transform what you're doing. So like you said, it is definitely about the relationships. It is all about personal relationships and really growth, if you will. So when you start connecting with people just day after day after day, event after event, you are going to experience some growth, and you are going to deepen those relationships.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, we know you've been very successful. You've been very diligent as far as following your plan. But as we talked about before, not everything necessarily goes according to plan. Yeah. You building influence and presence, and well thought out articles. You certainly are very well versed in doing that. But you must have experienced some challenges, or maybe continue experiencing challenges. What do you do when you kind of come against a roadblock or a challenge? And what have you done to overcome it?
Wow. Well, let me give you an example. This is social media. We're talking about personal relationships and connecting with people. There are people, and I'm sure you guys know this, who might have supported you, retweeted you 3 years ago, and they no longer do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you say to yourself, wow, because I know there was a big thing going around social media like, oh no, I don't need a lot of people. I just need just 150 people sharing my stuff and I'm good, right? The problem is that maybe half of those people, maybe a quarter of those people are not going to be with you. I mean, again, it varies, I'm sure, but some of those people are going to just peel off.
Yep.
And it's not anything, like you've done anything to them. They just become perhaps over familiar with you. They want to move on, and so what I've been able to do, and I noticed that, been able to really just kind of maneuver around that. Here's one tip that you can do to really sort of, that I've been able to utilize. One thing I do is every day I retweet somebody new.
That's a great tip.
I know. Let me tell you how I do it.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't do this. I've been doing this for 3+ years. So what I do is this, because again, I noticed that a lot of times there are people who may stop retweeting, stop sharing your stuff. If they're still following you, and obviously they're aware of but they're just not sharing your stuff. So what you do is to keep it going, to keep the momentum going. I will go to say Giga Ohm, Pod Jam, maybe Read Write Web, Mashable, HuffPost. And let's say I take the title. Let's say the title is Marty and Misty Rock Big Time. Okay, that's the name of the title, right? And somebody wrote this post on you guys. Marty and Misty Rock Big Time. So I will copy the title. Let's say it's been retweeted 500 times. I will then post that, paste it into Twitter search, and then I will see all the people who have retweeted it. Now, I do this because a lot of times when you go through that, you click on, you see that there's some people following you, if you will. And I have, close to about 500,000 followers. So I know that I haven't retweeted everybody who follows. So it's a good way of seeing, to connect with people who follow them at the same time. You also get a chance to see Fortune 500, individuals from Fortune 500 companies, social media managers, publishers of some of the real big social media publications, you name it. And that's what I've been doing every single day. Now, some days it's just one. Other days it could be 5, it could be 10. That's just my tip right there. No, I mean, that's just one way of doing it. You can just, many ways to do it. Now, half of the people follow me, half of the people don't follow me.
Right.
But the good part about that is that now you have you have a set of eyes on your blog, on your feed, on everything that you posted that wasn't there before.
Ooh, that's
I've been doing that for 3 years, and so that's one of the reasons why I've been able to kind of overcome just sort of a loss of retweets or a loss of support on different things. Just every single day, I am retweeting at least one new person, and obviously it's many things, but I think that's very key. And I've been doing it again for 3+ years.
I mean, and that's a great way to build relationships. You meet one new person every day, basically through social media, and like you said before, you never know who that person might be, and you're growing that network, and I've told people this before, especially people maybe with smaller followings and maybe getting discouraged and they want to rush it and say, it's a long game. And I said, you know what? I mean, you don't necessarily need, 8 million followers. You just need the right follower or followers. I mean, if you have 5 people following you, and say if you're in television, you have 5 people follow you, but one of the people is the president of NBC.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty good, So, but also reaching out and creating those relationships is very important. That's a great.
Let me tell you, real quick, my first ever social media gig, like my first speaking gig, it was an event in Seattle. And the woman's name was Kim Staninger. And Kim is sort of she's a businesswoman, and she's an event planner. And this was the first time I got a chance to meet Jenny Hogan.
Jenny, okay. Yeah,
absolutely. Up in Seattle in the Great Northwest. And profiled her recently. So Jenny moderated this event. And I was one of 4 people, along with like Chris Perillo, who's a big IT pro, also up in Seattle. And it was 4 of us on this panel. And she asked me, she said, listen, do you ever do speaking? Do you do panels? And I said, yeah, from time to time. So I'd like for you to come to this event. Now, this was a woman I followed in social media. Didn't even have maybe 2,000 followers. But again, when you look at her portfolio, you look at what she had done offline, it was absolutely amazing. It was great. She had a great track record of these events. And so that was my first social media event. And I think she really appreciated just kind of the tone of our conversation when I met her. She really appreciated how I really kind of just made her feel, just kind of like just the next person. If you have 8 million followers, I might retweet you, but then the very next person might be somebody with 50 followers. And she kind of talked about that when I met her, and she really appreciated that. So again, like you said, you never know who you're retweeting, who they know. And so it's important to focus in not just on the content, but just try to get to know that person.
Yeah, the relationships are big. And you just mentioned who they know. I mean, one of the things I always point out to people is it's not necessarily a first degree network, but it's more like your second, third, and fourth degrees. And it becomes this like big web that kind of reaches upon itself, and and it's that ripples in a pond that goes out from the center, Did you want to take the next question?
I just want to say.
Oh. Okay.
Just hello from Calvin. He's
Calvin Lee
watching
listening.
us right now.
Calvin Lee, oh my goodness, the man with the plan in LA, Calvin.
And Sarah Hawkins, she's been watching and then sharing some quotations and great tips from Sean.
Excellent. Hello to Sarah and Calvin.
Absolutely, Sarah. How you doing? Congratulations on all your success, and thank you so much for supporting the program.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, our next question is, what are your favorite topics when you are writing for the Huffington Post or any other publishing companies? We know you've written for Forbes. And
Well, I like stuff that deals with making a difference.
Okay.
Social good. I'm a sucker for social good.
I love your stuff there. That's a great area.
Yeah, well, look, let me tell you what happened. We got a chance to profile Naomi Campbell, myself, and Amy Newman and Yasmin Bey-Falahi. Those are 2 of my principal collaborators at HuffPost, along with some other individuals. But all 3 of us were able to profile her. Now you would say, she's a style person and she's into fashion and obviously is an entrepreneur. But what is the social good, angle there? She was talking about some of the stuff that she's done. She's working with some Chinese Chinese designers, and she has a this nonprofit. She started 2 nonprofits in 2006. I never knew that. One that's directly relating to Brazil and the children in Brazil, and then another one where she was talking. I think that has given money and resources to the victims of the Mumbai bombings. And also Hurricane Katrina, and some other, some other causes. So it's interesting. I try to find not just simply something that's sort of a low-hanging fruit, like, oh well, this is definitely social good. But if I sort of see something, I say, well, what is this? Who is this person beyond what we see? And then I'm able to kind of go in and then determine, oh wow, you support this program, you support that program, you started this. So I try to look for the kinds of angles, the kinds of stories, social good stories that people may not sort of think about or just think of. And I'm surprised that it's just kind of lasted this long, but I think, people like to not just feel good. I think people want to feel good, they want to be inspired, but they also want to be informed. And if you can put together pieces that have all of that, then I think you have a pretty winning formula. And be able to bring on some writers who also share that passion. I think we're just really taking the Post up to like another level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much bad news out there, and I think it gets reported enough. And what you just said about, certainly writing about social good, but maybe about things that don't necessarily get the publicity they should. And also, beyond even inspiration, what it I think what it motivates people to do is get involved. I think you offer a chance for people, just the regular people reading Huffington Post or any of the other platforms that you blog on, a chance to get involved in really great causes, and activities, in a positive way. Before we get to the next question, I do want to touch on the Twitter Powerhouse series, because I think that's something that I think most people know you from. And, this is not even in the questions that we discussed beforehand, but how'd that come about? I just think that's just a great idea, and it's just blossomed into this, whole big, series, and it's really given us a chance to get to know some really great people. I think you've really, made that connection with everybody, and kind of, our connector, and allowed people to really get to know great people. How did that start?
Well, I actually, the woman I mentioned earlier, Yasmin Baytolahi, I love this woman. God, I love this woman. Yasmin, actually, it's funny. Yasmin she told me about a guy who at the time worked for Mashable, and he since worked for like the Next Web and worked for, he's out in Silicon Valley now, but his name is Brett Petersell. So she sort of introduced me to, and this is way back in 2009. And so we started, struck up this friendship, started talking in the summer of 2009. And then what happened was, at the very end of the year, she started writing for Huffington Post as well. And so we had a series of conversations in December. But we had a final conversation of 2009 on December 31st. It was at 9 o'clock in the evening. We were both on the West Coast, because I was in Seattle and she lives in Orange County. And we said, hey, look, let's, we're almost done putting this together. So she came up with the name, Twitter Powerhouses. She came up with the little blurb that you see, say this is, a series, that looks at individuals who are making their mark in social media, etc. She came up with that blurb, and she came up with the very last sentence, which is sort of like the question: how do you define yourself in 140 characters? So what we decided to do was, we said, well, we need to do some individual interviews, and then at some point, maybe the fourth or fifth post, we can introduce a list.
Okay.
Because there weren't anything in social media, any series at the time in social media that had the combination of the list and the interview. So we started to say, hey, look, we need to do this because, Twitter, obviously at the time was red hot. It's still hot. But I mean, it was at the time, I would probably say maybe the heartbeat of social media. So many people right now are kind of vying for that attention. It's crazy, but it's still a lot of fun right now. But at the time we said, hey, let's do this. Let's do two things. One is we can profile individuals who may be in the shadows. And I mean in the shadows, not like they just want to be in the shadows, but individuals whose work you may know, but whose names you may not. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then we would balance that with individuals who were on a bunch of lists and who people knew. And so that's pretty much how that came about. And I think we did flip books at first.
Oh, yes.
There was Michelle B. Tourist out in Orange County. And then Jazz Baker, who worked for CNN.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then I think the fourth person was Mahai Foliaki. Mr.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the post that really kind of blew the whole series up was perhaps 16 people on Twitter who inspired the world.
Yes.
Because that was Lotte Yang, or on that. Was it Lolly Daskell? So many individuals.
I think I was on there.
Were you on there?
Yes, the 16.
Yeah, and so we just kind of said, hey, let's keep this going. Let's do this. And she also agreed too. Let's bring on some other writers. And so I was able, I think that year, to work with 4 other writers besides Yasmin on that series, and that just kind of like, it almost like it just kind of it sort of bonded me a little stronger with those writers I have been knowing for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
But it did something also with the series, because I it's so funny, at the end of the year, I saw like a big ad on all 12. It was like 12, I think, that we did in the series for 2010, and it was a big rock ad on all 12. So I was like, okay, yeah, stop it, Good stuff. But what we were doing was every single week, every Friday, Friday, I would share all of those pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, like every Friday, I think it just, Glenn Gilmore, Kim Sherrill, who else? J.D. Andrew, and of course, he was in one dealing with tech. So, I think overall, this series is just something, is just sort of our way of networking, connecting, and also just kind of showing people all around the world, individuals who are making their mark.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Social media. Yeah, a lot of people say that they were just kind of really inspired to do their series, or inspired to do, to just be a blogger from the series. And I think the true, sincerest form of just, flattery is when you see individuals with the Twitter powerhouse hashtag in their Twitter bio. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's made an impact.
Or perhaps some reference to an article in the series that they were in. So no, this was fun. This was just something that we stayed up, 2 or 3 conversations, we pieced it together, and I think she had more to do with the structure of it, and then together we kind of put sort of meat on the bones, if you will.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really a perfect way also for like other people to kind of meet. They wouldn't get the chance to really get to know somebody just on Twitter. It's like 140 characters, but the way you did it is that they really get an in-depth look into those people and why they are really Twitter powerhouses.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's perfect. So, are there any tips you can give business owners in terms of working with bloggers? Because I'm sure, you've been working with brands and in bringing their messages across.
I'm sure you've gotten this question before too.
Oh my God, yeah. I would, because there was a really great post recently about some of the questions that business owners and folks need to ask, a social media manager or somebody looking to do social media for them. I would ask, first of all, you need to figure out if the person understands that, if the person understands the field, if you will. Like if you're going into banking, let's say there's a bank, let's say it may be some sort of small business, whatever it may be. Has this person done their homework? Do they understand what your needs and what your ambitions are? So that's number one. You have to really figure that out. The other thing is, there's nothing wrong with asking the person what their reach is, and when I say, because again, I think that if you say what their reach is, it's not so much that like how many followers you have. Because, there are people who have 10,000 followers, and yet they may get like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 retweets a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then there are people who have a lot more, 600, 700,000, and maybe get, less than half that.
Right.
So I think there's nothing wrong with asking a person what their reach is, the size of their network, how reliable their network is. Because, when you go in, it's not just really about what you're doing. You do say, hey, I have a network of people who can support what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
All I have to do is activate them, and then, hey, it's good. So I think you have to ask those kinds of questions. What's your reach? How reliable and how strong the network is, and then actually just kind of determine and ascertain if this is someone who's really done their homework on everything. You know what I mean? So those are sort of the things there, how you can that I would urge businesses to sort of focus on. Absolutely, I think those are key. I mean, there's a lot more, but I think those are very key.
Oh, I think that's excellent, because I think there are a lot of people out there that think they can do it. They just say that they're a social media expert, or but we find out that they've been doing it for a week, or they really. And I think what you said about team and your reach, and that just goes back to building those relationships. I mean, I don't know anybody that is successful has done it all by themselves. I mean, there's usually some help along the way, or a team of people you get together. And the most successful leaders are people that can gather teams together, motivate, and also get people with complementary skills. And then you see the big results, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, let me tell you, so funny. When I started my first social media job in 2011, and it was for a nonprofit called SeeYourImpact out of Seattle. So, I'm like, hey, I got this. It's all good. Tweeting, it can't be that hard. It's not hard posting on Facebook. You just do it. People like it. They're like, Sean, this is amazing. Oh my goodness, right? Oh my God. I get in there, and it's not so much that you have multiple, how hard it is to post on multiple platforms. Because, obviously you want to keep posting on yours, and then you want to post on theirs. But no, it's like strategy. It's real strategy. So like I get into SeeYourImpact, and they were like, oh no, Sean, let me tell you. My manager was like, well, no. What we're looking for is like what World Vision does, and so now I had to study World Vision. It took me perhaps maybe 3 to 4 weeks to get the World Vision style. World Vision, and it was Doctors Without Borders, and it was another one. It's really great stuff, You don't post the same style, but there's certain devices that you can use on Facebook. And it took me 3 weeks to just get that down, but it took me another couple of weeks to really get it together. So it's if you're posting for yourself, you can just say, hey, boom. You can post that all day, and just the word boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's easy. But when you start working with a brand, you start working on a campaign, it takes so much, the thought process is just tremendous.
Yeah. You're right. If you're just posting casually for yourself, I mean, and you can put any 140 characters out there, and you can just have this conversation. But if you're working with brands who demand results for promotional purposes, or they're running a campaign, they want to see the analytics, they want to see they got the reach, and they're reaching the potential customer. There are certain techniques and it takes a lot of work, preparation, planning, creativity.
Yes, I love what he said. You have to have a social strategy.
Absolutely.
Just like posting here, posting there, you're good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, Sean, this 30 minutes, I mean, we're a little over right now, but this 30 minutes, I knew it was going to be flying by here, because you are the best, and just so great, such great information to share. In terms of wrapping it up, is there any other last tips that you can offer folks who may be new or been in social media for a while, and maybe they're just not getting the results, and they're having a hard time, building a following or building those relationships? Anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to offer?
Yes. Well, number one, don't be afraid to use Twitter search. Let me just start with that. Twitter search is just absolutely amazing. I would, that's one way you can do it in terms of following somebody through Twitter search. But it's absolutely awesome. So one thing I would do is to do more cross posting. And here's why I say cross posting, because if somebody follows my Twitter feed, they'll see that I don't think I started doing this perhaps maybe until like about a year ago, where what I would do is I would take the link, the Google Plus link, and you can post that on Twitter, and that's how you actually can build, because there are a lot of people out there who say, well, I'm not sure, I'm not really that keen on Google Plus or whatever it may be. But they may have a Gmail account. So if they have a Gmail account, they can +1 it, and that's exactly what happened to me. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't really get a great deal of +1 out the gate. I'm sort of like the tortoise, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the hare. I'm the tortoise.
But you know who won the race, though?
I know, man. But no, I do that, and I do that at different times of the day. So I will post Google Plus links on Twitter. On Facebook, I will typically post a great deal of I guess they use these Pinterest links on there. So one of the best ways to do it, and I think I learned this from Mahai Foliaki. What you do is, if it's say a particular image, you upload the image onto Facebook, and all you do is over the image you put the link.
Gotcha.
So not only are they liking liking it, because if it's really good, and you're definitely going to post it on Facebook, then what they're going to do is they're going to click on the link and they're going to go to your Pinterest page, and they may actually pin it or repin it or like it or whatever it may be. So there's so many ways that you can really cross post. And that's so. I mean, it's not just simply the plus one. Because somebody was saying on Google Plus, the plus one a lot. They've been doing that, and I said, no. You have to cross post as well. If your strong suit is Twitter, which is this woman's strong suit is, then post it, and then just sort of she can post a lot of her Pinterest ones, but just not the Google Plus ones.
Right.
So sort of try to do a lot of not a lot of, but just sort of tinker with cross-posting and see how that works. And I think, and there are a lot of people who said over the years, you shouldn't cross-post. You shouldn't cross the stream, Sean. Don't do that. Forget that. No, do that and see how it works for you.
Yeah, I like, it's in Misty's, we've talked about this in private, about the power of observation and really being observant and then acting on those observations. I think a lot of people, I find this in photography. I'm a photographer, and when you're teaching people how to take better pictures, many times the issue is they're not observant with what's in the viewfinder. They got the thing growing out of someone's head and this and that, and they're not just seeing it. Just observe a little bit more carefully and then really think about it and really act on those observations,
Right.
So, great suggestion. Man, it's been a quick show. I knew it would be. Sean, we want to thank you very, very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. Man, that was a great interview with Sean. A lot of great tips, a lot of great knowledge. I mean, Sean's been doing it for a while. He's just a great guy. Really understands relationships, really understands persistence and working hard. And it was a pleasure to have Sean on our show.
And he's a real person. I remember coming to the U.S. He was the very first person to welcome me to the U.S. He gave me a call. So
great.
How he really values personal relationships, creating friendships, and relationships
are everything, and we've learned that certainly. I think that'll do it, but before we go, we want to remind you a lot of the content that we get for Inspiring Connections is repurposed from a live Google Hangout show that we do on our site
every Sunday
night, at least mostly every Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Usually lasts about a half hour. In fact, the content for this show came from a show that we did this past Sunday night.
Yeah, so if they want to participate in future shows and get their questions out to our guests, they can just follow the hashtag PTV Live. Yep. And then they can just send in their questions.
Absolutely. And that's the great thing about a live show is that you can participate instead of just listen or watch. So if you're around on Sunday nights, we'd love to have you tune in. Again, you can go to our website, podjam.tv/live show. It's embedded right there. And also all the previous shows are available there as well. So in case you missed anything, you can see all the live shows as they happened at podjam.tv/live. Now this
and also I think it will be if you have a suggestion on who you think would be great.
That's excellent. Yes.
For us to feature, write your comments on the comment section.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you as far as what you thought of the show, or any suggestions. Now, this podcast is also available on our website at podjam.tv/inspiring connections. It's also available for subscription in iTunes and Stitcher Radio. We certainly encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss anything. One of the reasons why we do it is certainly with the audio, it's downloadable. You can take it with you if you're driving or exercising. You don't have to be right with your computer, and it's a great way to listen to the podcast
and learn.
And also, if we could ask, we don't like to do this, but we'll do it anyways. One of the ways that podcasts, and this goes for all the podcasts on iTunes, get visibility is through your reviews and hopefully your 5-star reviews. So if you subscribe, if you can go to iTunes, leave us a review. We'd love to see.
Just search for Inspiring Connections.
It's right there. We'd love to see your comments, your reviews, your 5-star reviews. In fact, if you leave us a 5-star review, we'll certainly mention you on our future show. And that helps the visibility of the podcast and to get it out there. So we certainly encourage you, and we would really appreciate that as well. I think that'll do it, right? For another edition of Inspiring Connections, we will see you next time.
Go.